Hello. This is actually my third time recording this video because in the first recording, the audio was just terrible. So now I've got my earbuds in. And for the second recording, I just couldn't speak. So here's the third recording. In this video, I just want to talk about art and like what I think about art and how I feel about art. And I'm going to try to define art. So to start off, I think art is, a lot of people, they'll try to they'll try to like have this dissonant mindset where it's like, okay, you can't define art. Like, anyone who's smart knows you can't define art. And I think it's just, maybe a lot of people do believe that. And I don't mind taking that stance on like a lot of things where it's like, you have to feel it, you can't always define things. And that's fair, that's fine. But I just think for art specifically, that's not really true. Obviously for a conversation of like what's good versus bad, and like quality wise, like what's good art, what's bad art, something like that. It's like obviously that's just fully subjective. So I'm not gonna argue that there's like objectives in that. But I do think you can at least define art. I would say that art is at its simplest just a form of communication. And then on top of that, I would say it's a much deeper form of communication than any other form that we not have access to, but just have at all, just have discovered, have created, just have it all. I think it's just the deepest, most connective form of communication we have. And I think you can kind of see this too. Like, people value art so much. People go to the movies, people read books, it's a huge part of people's identity. What are you into? Oh, they'll start listing off movies, they'll start listing off manga, anime, books, whatever it may be. But people really identify with art and they really connect to art very hard. And I'm I am with them in that, of course. I'm the same way. I connect with art a lot. But I just think in general that like art um I think art is just a deeper expression of people. I think it's a part of someone's soul. So like an example would be, I think Kanye, he's a good example, is like, yeah, he may not be perfect or whatever. You can think whatever you want about him, but there's a part of Kanye you understand from his music if you've actually like listened to it. And I think like Ye is a good example of this. It's probably my favorite Kanye album, but Ye is just such a good, like, you can really feel who Kanye is. Obviously, you don't thoroughly understand him, or like I think even to say you understand him just from an album or even all of his albums alone is pretty absurd. But at the same time, there is an understanding that you have, and it's a deeper understanding. It's not a full understanding or like even close to full, but it is an understanding that is like significant. It's not just like a qualitative like assessment. I think a part of it too is like, if you were to explain to someone, you know like one of your best friends, if you were to explain one of your best friends and why you love them so much and like why they mean so much to you, why you think they're so great, if you were to explain that to someone else, to explain all the moments in between and like who they truly are is really difficult. And I think it's just because the words alone, like just describing something, it just is not good enough. Like, that's why I think, you'll see like documentaries or videos of people, who've passed away or such, and you can really understand who they were so much better than if anyone that was close to them ever tried to explain. Or like how when trying to explain someone, like especially in a scenario like that, like someone that's passed away or someone that you can't meet anymore, is like, oh, this one event sums up who they were so well. And it's because you can get a feeling from an event like that. That story of who they were explains who they were so well. And I think that's kind of just how art is. It's just a deeper form of communication that no other art form can really access or like is even close to. And you can say that, normal conversation in prose is like an art form, because sure, like, yeah, it's like, you can define art as like human creation and just leave it there. And like, sure, you could say that normal speaking, like what I'm doing now, is art. But I think that's kind of like arguing semantics, or like kind of just trying to smudge the argument, or kind of like an ingenuine way of viewing it, just kind of insincere, not really trying to get at anything, just kind of saying stuff at that point. But I think more so art is just a better expression of just the soul and like who someone is. And I think like describing art as like a conversation works a lot better than almost anything else, and that's why I mainly like label it as like communication, is because that's kind of how it works. Like the more of one art piece or story or kind of art from a certain artist you interact with, the more you understand of them. The more, One Piece is such a long story. I'll use One Piece. One Piece, it's such a long story that you see these characters that Oda clearly just loves so much. And you can just, as the story develops, as these moments happen, as you see all the villains, good guys in between, as you see them all interact, you can just so well get this idea of who someone like Oda is. And obviously, this starts to dip into the like parasocial thing, which I don't even care to talk about or like argue about, because like obviously if you're idolizing people through their art, then like that's not good, obviously. But do think people should be more open to just like understanding other people through art. Like, yeah, obviously you don't idolize someone or like romanticize who they are because you don't know them like that. Like that's not how it works. But in a sense, you do know them. In a sense. Or at least, very loosely. And I just thought this was interesting to talk about. Yeah, I just think art really works as more than just a medium of like a hobby or like something to do to pass time. I think it more so works as a deeper expression of self and like who you are, and people are able to interact with art. And then even though it's kind of like a pre-made, like most art is already, it's made as it is and then distributed, so like it's not like an active conversation, but yet somehow it is. Somehow the connection that you have watching a movie, reading manga, watching some anime, watching some TV show, watching something, looking at a painting, reading a poem, any of it, it is an active conversation. Even though their part is already concrete, it changes when you read it. As you're reading it, as you go back to read it, as you rewatch it, you see, it's not seeing things that you missed, but it's just different. It actively changes. You feel feelings that weren't there before because of altered perceptions. It's like, I would say it's kind of on the same fringe as like foreshadowing, when like you didn't see it when it was, initially done, but like now that, XYZ event has happened in the future, you're like, oh, that's what that meant. And like, no one knew. Not really like that, like explicitly, where it's like, follows some logic gate, but more so, it's just somehow art transcends. It's so powerful that even though the movie's already distributed, the book is already written and created, it's still an active conversation just between the artist and the operand, whoever is interacting with it. Everyone who reads the book, they have a different interaction and connection with the book. And then Obviously the author or creator, distributor, whatever, they don't have any like they don't like have like a ping of emotion or like feeling when someone like finishes the book or like finishes a page. They're not like actively being like updated like a robot. But it is just an active conversation, at least on the end of the operand, the consumer. And I just thought that it was really interesting to talk about, and that like art taps into something much more interesting than like it just being like a pastime or like just another form of communication. Like I think it's like its own special type of communication that's not really like, obviously, just it's just not like anything else. It just feels different. And I kind of just want to bring that up. Yeah, that was it. See ya.